Good afternoon, Full Circle Wellness community and friends. I'm back for you guys. Thank you very much for your patience. I know I didn't show up last week with our usual studio real talk. We are back in the living room with the lovely sunlight, or well, it's not really sunny, it's actually cloudy because it snowed today, but it's super bright, which I love. So we're in here with the comfy blankets and we're hanging out, and Ella is here, she's on the floor, and we are just doing our thing. We had a snow day at work today, which is so rare, I feel like, as an adult for an office to be like, no, you don't have to come in. So it was nice. I got some extra rest this morning, but anyway, I'm back. Hello, how are you guys? Today we're going to do several things today. I am going to backtrack and talk a little bit about physical fitness, and then I'm going to hit you guys with a nice little life update, and that's going to kind of tie right into our conversation on nutrition. So we'll start with the life update. The biggest reason, because I don't like to be one to make excuses. I try to leave my excuses at the door anymore, but very recently I've been having tons of issues with feeling tired, and not just like, oh, I'm a little tired and I need to push through, like tired in a way that I was like, I need to make an appointment with my doctor, something isn't right tired. So I did finally make an appointment with my doctor. I also have been working with my coach on this because she knows I'm feeling this way. And as a coach, who's trying to help me with my nutrition and with my physical fitness, to be like, yeah, I'm making all of these nutrition adjustments and doing all of this physical activity, and I'm still like shot multiple times during the day. She also recommended that I see my doctors, which had been on my mind for a while because I've just been tired for quite some time, where I'll get up on the weekend, I will, maybe start to clean the house, get some food made, and then be ready for a nap. And then I'll get up and maybe go run an errand and then come back and I'm ready for a nap. And then I'll get up and then I'll have a meal and then I'm ready for a nap again. So none of that has felt healthy. It's felt like I'm too tired. I'm like well beyond just needing a little extra sleep at night. And on top of that, the sleep that I have been getting at night hasn't been fantastic. So I always wake up a lot in the middle of the night, considering all kinds of things. But anyway, I decided I'm going to go to the doctor to get this all checked out. So this week I also had a blood work done. So I had several panels done, a lipid panel, I think it's called a metabolic panel. I had my thyroid checked and like my blood sugar levels checked, and I can't remember what else, but after doing some of my own research, I literally started to think like maybe I was having an issue with my thyroid, because you can definitely end up with like extreme fatigue, having hypothyroidism, where you have an underactive thyroid. It's a gland here in your throat that I think it does something with hormones. I'll be honest, I was like, just learning about this week. So I was thinking, okay, maybe it could be that, because I also have a lot of issues with like being really cold, and I have a lot of issues with my skin feeling dry, and like all of that was kind of pointing to what I thought was maybe something with my thyroid. But all of my labs showed that my thyroid is completely normal and functioning properly. So that was not the issue. However, I've been having a little bit of a nutritional crisis myself this week, which is just this week and last week. Like, this has all just been kind of going on and kind of accumulating, and it's actually why I just haven't shown up for you guys. I felt like in the middle of my own, like another sort of health crisis, trying to figure out what's going on with my own nutrition and what's going on with my own body, that I didn't really know how I wanted to speak on these topics. And then I kind of realized today that, like, because I am in the middle of this right now, it's actually the perfect time for me to come on and talk about you guys with it, because I can use, obviously, the things that I'm experiencing as an example to talk about nutrition and why nutrition and physical fitness are so important, and why they're slices of the full circle wellness pie. So anyway, looking at the rest of my labs, I was looking at everything was looking normal, and then I see something called creatinine, which I'd never heard of before, in really high numbers. Like, my body had what's called protein waste, like when the muscles, and I'm doing a lot of muscle work, when the muscles are like trying to break down proteins and they produce waste, your kidneys are responsible for expelling that waste from your body, like processing it through getting rid of the waste, obviously in the form of urination. It's your kidneys. So creatinine levels being elevated points out that the kidneys are not functioning properly. And then I was also seeing extremely low, there's a number called an EGFR, and that number was indicating that there was I want to say it was more waste that wasn't being processed, or it's like the rate at which the waste is being processed. Again, I'm not a medical doctor, you guys. I'm just talking about my experience and like the things that I'm kind of learning right now as we speak. And anyway, all of those numbers were indicating that my kidneys right now, my kidneys are taking damage. They're overstressed. They're not working properly. They're not expelling protein waste from my body. So knowing that I've been eating a very, very high protein diet, I let my doctor know that. And she was like, can you cut that by like a third? And then we'll come back and then reassess. So she is thinking that it's just a serious increase in protein intake. And I don't know that that's specific to food protein, as in like animal protein, meat protein, dairy protein, or if that's specific to the fact that I do consume and use like protein powders. Now, I use vegan protein powders, and here's what's interesting, and this is coming up for me right now. You can get like protein powders in the form of whey isolate protein, which is obviously a dairy product. Like whey is a dairy byproduct. And in the past, when I've consumed whey proteins, it's always been super rough on my stomach, like rocks of lava moving through my stomach, just serious bowel issues. It's not something that I can consume. Most of the time it makes me want to vomit. It's just not my body doesn't like whey protein. So I have been opting for a vegan protein, and it was just completely lost on me, which is something that I think is all just part of this process. It's like understanding certain things about yourself, and then something else happens, and then you have to kind of readjust and relearn. But I'm talking in circles. So vegan protein is obviously made from plant protein sources, right? It's going to be vegan. It's not meat byproducts or animal byproducts. It's plant protein based. So it didn't fucking occur to me that I have allergies to plant proteins. Like if I eat the skins of apples, or even peaches, dates, plums, pears. I can't eat the skins of almonds and hazelnuts and walnuts, because the trees that those fruits and nuts come from, the protein contains the pollen that I have allergies to. So when I take a bite out of an apple, if I were to consume the skin, have the skin touch my lips and my tongue and my gums, all of that in my mouth area, and obviously going down the back of my throat, becomes extremely inflamed, and it becomes itchy, and it's extremely uncomfortable. Now that's something I discovered much earlier on in life, and I've discussed that with an allergist, and he was like, it's not that serious. If I heat an apple, if I were to cook it in some way, I can eat that skin just fine, because when you cook those things, or if you roast nuts, that protein is completely broken down, removed from the skin, and I can consume it and it's fine. It's the protein that I'm allergic to. So why didn't it occur to me that in consuming vegan protein powder, which is made of cold processed plant protein, that I could eat that? So it's just been this whole thing, and my doctor is pretty certain that if I just eliminate these protein powders from my diet and kind of bring down the amount of protein I'm eating in other sources, that I should start to see some normal levels return. I start to get less tired, feel my energy come back, feel my body kind of come back to me, and hopefully I have not done permanent damage to my kidneys. That's all my fault, These things are a learning process. So that is my, I guess, starting point and my sort of core point when it comes to nutrition. I could have just been like, no, I'm fine. I'm just going to press on with this diet that's new and these products that are new. But that's not who I've become in my own healing journey. I've learned over time to stop and listen to my body when something is weird, off, or going wrong, and investigate that. Ella, can we maybe not bark? Mommy's talking. I'm gonna get barking. I know it. She thinks there's somebody outside. She's barking a lot this morning just because of the snow. She's like, people are outside, and we've had the plows coming through and people outside scraping cars and things, and both of my dogs have just been like bark, 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 bark. But anyway, when it comes to nutrition and when it comes to physical fitness, but we're going to start with nutrition because that's kind of where I'm pinging from in my own life right now. When it comes to nutrition, it's just a matter of doing what's right for you. So I'm not going to sit here. I'm not a registered dietitian. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to eat. But what I am going to tell you to do is learn to listen to your body so that you can figure out what to eat. So in this whole journey, I've figured out that a lot of whole foods work for me. The fruits and nuts thing, learning about the allergies that I have don't work for me. Honestly, learning that I have issues with lactose. So like the milks that I consume are actually like lactose-free milks, and I don't even consume almond milk because of the nut allergy. Almond milk is cold processed, which means that protein, is not being broken down. So I actually cannot consume almond milk. That too can cause a lot of inflammation in my body. And that's just it. When you're consuming foods that your body doesn't like, you're going to get inflammation in your body, and you don't want that to show up in the way that it's currently showing up for me right now, which is in the form of like potential kidney damage. Another thing that came up for me this week that's actually kind of got me just a little flustered, and it really kind of shut me down this week, was my blood sugar levels were actually really high. And that's concerning because if you have been following me for any period of time, you know that throughout the month of October, November, and December, so doing my 90-day slay, and even before that, I had cut processed sugars out of my diet. So no cookies, no cakes. I was taking away, just treats and things like that. Still eating things like maple syrup, honey, fruits, natural sources of sugar. But to find out that my blood sugar is still basically putting me in the pre-diabetic range is actually kind of frightening, because I don't consume a lot of sugar. So I'm, again, working with my coach and my doctors. My coach is a registered dietitian. So working with my coach and working with my doctors to alter my nutrition again, you guys. It's a constant learning process. Healing is never over. Learning about your body is never over, because you can always develop allergies. You can always, if I'm not mistaken, my mom was allergic to strawberries for the longest time, and as she's gotten older, that allergy is not even something that she has to deal with anymore. So things like that, intolerances that your body could potentially have. So it's just a matter of eating what works for you, but then also just taking the time to figure that out. But really, when it comes to nutrition and when it comes to food, the two sort of biggest things that I posted about this week and that I've been talking about are that, like, food is fuel and food is medicine. And again, food can also be harmful, because it's like if I'm consuming something that I'm constantly exposing my body to, that I'm allergic to, which is what I've clearly been doing, I'm obviously seeing the results of that in a very negative way. Now, if I eliminate that from my diet, make the kind of changes that I need to see, and use the kinds of foods that my body does like to process well and that my body likes to use for fuel, then I'm going to see a positive change. I'm not going to be as tired. My mood is going to improve. And that's really what I think our relationship with food should be, is getting to a place that's almost objective, where it's like you're not thinking about food as something that's a source of like fun or comfort, something that I can speak to as having dealt with binge eating disorder for years. Like, I spent years of my life, this was before I really even got like my PMDD diagnosis, before I started working with a therapist, before I started doing any kind of healing work, I was constantly using food to quell emotions, to deal with shame, to give myself a sense of control. It was like always binge eating something. And there's a lot that goes into binge eating disorder. Things that were happening for me that I knew it was binge eating was eating out of like odd times of the day, consuming food very quickly in large amounts, and just getting to a place of like shame afterwards. There was a lot of like sneaking food, where it's like, there's only me and Greg living here, right? But I would literally consume food like behind his back. But it actually had nothing to do with him, because if he saw me like eating, it's not like he was going to say anything. The shame was my own, in that like I knew better than to be eating 5 donuts out of the like well, you know, you get those packs of like treats and baked goods from like Meijer or Kroger or whatever, going in there and like cracking the package open as silently as possible so that no one knew, because it's like if no one knew, then it didn't happen. Making a silent sandwich, like closing the cabinets and opening packages like really slowly so that it didn't make sound. And it's like that actually has nothing to do with anybody else and everything to do with my own sense of shame for the fact of like knowing that I could be doing better, and like I know this isn't good for me, but I'm doing it anyway. And binge eating is definitely like a part. We've talked about IFS, we've talked about parts trying to quell shame, quell feelings of feeling not enough, feeling like you're out of control, all kinds of things. There's all kinds of reasons that people binge eat food. For me, a lot of times it was like coming home from work feeling super, super stressed and then just like whipping through the drive-thru. I love a Popeyes Cajun fry, you guys. Just delicious. Going to Wendy's, getting chicken nuggets, rolling through, there's an Arby's on my street, going through and getting like a Jamocha shake, like just eating fast food. And it's like, you don't even stop to think about how like garbage that food is for you. And I talked about that in the blog post this week, that, you know, when you put garbage in, you're gonna feel like garbage. So when you put, you know, good nutrition in, you feel better. Obviously, I've been putting garbage in, and it's actually not that it's garbage, because the protein is really good, high quality protein. I'm just allergic to it. So for me, it's garbage. So for me to be consuming something consistently for 2 months, 1 to 2 scoops a day that I'm allergic to, is obviously taking an extreme toll on my body. So stuff like that, just taking a step back and learning what's going to work for you. And obviously I'm going to preach whole foods to you guys. Get out of the center aisles of the grocery store, go to the produce section, get fresh meats, cook things from scratch, even make your sauces from scratch. I've gotten to a point where I've learned how to make some of my own nut butters. I will make things like ketchup, and Greg makes his own creamer because we found out that there is a thickener called carrageenan in creamer that is actually a known carcinogen and will give you cancer. And it's in like every creamer. It's in a lot of things actually. If you see carrageenan on a label, do not buy it. You guys, do not eat that. It's gonna kill you at some point. Just stop. And while his creamer is still full of sugar because he's making it out of sweetened condensed milk, which is like holy shit sugar, it at least doesn't have known carcinogens in it. So it's just like a matter of like making a lot of stuff yourself. And I think a lot of people, including myself, will say, I don't have time for that. Like, I just don't have time for that. I need something quick. And I just have to say, like, it's a mindset shift that you have got to make around, if you don't tend to your health now, you're going to be tending to your illness later, which is something, again, that I'm experiencing in real time right now, having been consuming something that I didn't know that I shouldn't be consuming. And now it's like I'm having to deal with not illness yet, but it's like, oh, if I had continued down this road, I would be getting ill. So it's actually, honestly, I've been having like a total spiritual moment with this, you guys, because I've been feeling like, okay, all of this came up at the right time because I felt like my guides or the universe, God, like they just wanted to kind of get me in the red flag mode. Like, hey, you gotta stop eating this. Like you're gonna hurt yourself if you keep going. So it's like, while it's kind of scary, I think it was almost like, hey, can you just stop eating this? But anyway, that's just me and my beliefs. I try to put faith over fear always. It's just what it is. So we'll go on to the next topic. So with nutrition, like I said, food as medicine, using food to heal your body. Another thing to kind of speak on that is, you guys know that I have my PMDD diagnosis. I learned about something called seed cycling when I started doing research on how you can sort of like naturally deal with having the diagnosis of premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is, so seed cycling is where you would eat specific types of nuts and seeds at the 2 different points in your cycle. So you'll have like day 1 through 14, 14 through 28, or however long it is, you know, however long your cycle is, ovulation being the thing that like splits your cycle in half. And during that first half, that like follicular phase, going into ovulation, you eat flax seeds and pumpkin seeds, and then in the latter half you eat sunflower seeds and sesame seeds. So that's something I started doing a while ago. I still do that. I sprinkle those things into pretty much anything that I'm kind of cooking for the day, or a salad, or if I'm just making some vegetables, I'll just add some of those seeds in there, because I do a lot of meal prepping, which we'll talk about in a little bit. Because I think that's another thing that people say, like, oh, I don't have time to meal prep. And I'm like, honey, I said the same thing until I started meal prepping, and now I'm like, no, that saves me hours of my life in the kitchen. I spend an hour to 2 hours on Sunday in the kitchen making lunch for every day, breakfast for every day, and then planning and potentially prepping some things for dinner every day. And that saves me time throughout the week because now I don't have to cook those things. I can pop them in the microwave, not in plastic. Don't put plastic in the microwave, you guys. And then when it comes to dinner, maybe I just have to make the meat and the veggies are prepped and I just heat the veggies and we go. Or whatever it is, pop some rice in the rice cooker and we're just making the meat and now we've got tacos. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. There's some prep that goes into it on Sunday when I do my meal prep parties. And if you're following me on Instagram, I love to make a video for a meal prep party. So you can check those out if you're interested. But anyway, and then using food as fuel. You have to think, like, your body is running a ton of processes all the time, especially if you're a woman, because you're going to have a menstrual cycle that requires caloric value. It requires fuel. It requires energy. If you have anything going on in your body that's, we'll say, dis-ease, or if you have something chronic, your body is going to be combating that regularly. You need the fuel to give your body to work. And when it comes to physical fitness, depending on the level of activity that you're at, you've got to consume more calories in the right ratios to support that kind of movement. That's something else that I've been learning with my coach and just learning a lot in my life recently. Something that's going on in real time for me is learning about macros. Now, I obviously was consuming too much protein and my doctor is having me bring that back. My coach is aware of that. So we together are, restructuring my diet and restructuring my nutrition, knowing that my activity levels are very high. I need to cut back on protein and I'm having these issues with sugar. So we're actually going to need to cut back on carbs as well, which is, again, kind of freaking me out because I'm like, I don't know what's left is just eating fats and fiber. So we'll figure out what's going on. But I think it's going to be more so a lot of fruits and vegetables, which, I mean, hey, you guys, that's what's natural. That's what's real. Fruits and vegetables are actually carbs, but if you consume a lot of them, those carbs are really low and then it's going to fill you up a little bit more. So there's just a lot that goes into it. It's a lot to kind of like learn about, but using food in a sense of fuel, I think was also something that helped me really shift my mindset out of seeking food for emotional support. And I'm going to like put a caveat on that as well. So when it came to doing binge eating disorder, I started that journey just with my own research. I just looked up, what does binge eating disorder look like? What does that include? I did actually have all of the symptoms of that in terms of like when I was eating, how much I was eating, reasons behind my eating, and like just sort of the relationship that I was having with food. It was a very there was a lot of shame around eating when I would eat and then just viewing food as something that was like out of my control. And I would just like eat and not realize how much I was eating. And there were times too where it's like we would finish dinner and I would take our plates into the kitchen to go put them in the dishwasher. And like my plate was obviously cleared because I had an issue with just like, I'm going to eat all of it. And if there was any scraps on like Greg's plate, I would just eat that too. Behind his back, like, because I didn't want him to know that I was doing it, because there was a lot of shame there for me. So it's just like when those kind of things are happening in your life, it's definitely something that you want to take a look at. But when you take a look at something like that, that is a mental health issue. Again, that was a part of me. I call her Betty Binger. And she was one of my parts in my sort of internal family system that we talked about that was trying to protect my anxious part. Anytime I would feel sort of anxiety, stress, or out of control, that is a part of me that would sort of like step up to the plate and say like, okay, this is how I'm going to deal with this. So it took me doing mental health work to get that part to chill out, step back, and allow me as the self to come back in as the head of the family so that I could give my body, I'm having like hiccups. I don't know what is going on right there. I had to get back to a place where me as the self could show up and give my body the kind of nutrition that it needed and not just like the fries that it wanted or just the excess of a meal. Sometimes it would be a healthy meal and I would just eat it in excess because I thought, well, this just feels good. And it's like we have to set aside those feelings knowing that they're you know, when you go down that road of constantly eating, or if you're just over consuming, you're going to get to a place where you're going to have a health problem. And it's like, I've had a lot of that show up in my life. And now I'm standing at the door of some more health problems and discussing those things with you guys in real time, because that's the conversation today. We're talking about health in sort of a more literal sense, the sort of nutrition aspect of health, the food aspect of health, and it is all just a journey. And I think that really what I'm trying to say here in terms of why that's an important part of the journey is because when you get your health together, your like nutritional health, it supports a lot of other things. So obviously if you're eating something that's allergic to, it's going to damage your body. If your body is damaged, you're going to feel tired. If you're not getting enough sleep, you're not going to be able to show up, and it's going to affect your mood. It's going to affect all those other pie slices in a negative way. Or like if I do have a health issue, like I have PMDD, if I adjust my nutrition to support that PMDD, that not only supports my mental health and my body, it's going to kind of support my spirit and my mind. So it's just a matter of recognizing nutrition as something that supports the entire system, and it's not something that's isolated in and of itself. And then I did also just want to kind of touch on some stuff that I kind of got into last year in terms of learning about nutrition and doing things in a really natural way, and that was herbalism. I went to this workshop, you guys. It was actually so cool. I went to this workshop. This chick, oh my gosh, what was her company called? Thistle Bee Tea. I want to say she's up in Dayton or somewhere out on the east side, but she's got this farm. She does a lot of work with medicinal herbs. And when I say medicinal herbs, you guys, I'm talking about like basil, I'm talking about dandelion, chamomile, like just the stuff that you can grow in your own garden. And I think I really like to put together like just something for you guys about doing that, because I actually got into doing that last summer. And I got to I grew some cilantro, I grew some mint, I grew a ton of chamomile, I grew basil. I did all of these things that dried out all of my herbs. And then as the fall came around, I was able to use those herbs in teas. And when you have all of that stuff from sort of a very natural source, like straight from the garden, not like from the store in a little tea bag, it's gonna have all of its actual properties that are gonna like help reduce inflammation or calm your mood or improve your brain fog. Like there's all kinds of benefits to having natural food that comes straight out of the ground. And it's super interesting, honestly. Let me be straight with you. So one of my top 10 goals in life is to build a like sustainable homestead. Like Greg and I really want to have sort of like a farm situation. I would love to have like a full, obviously an herb garden, but then also just like a vegetable garden. I was like, we're going to get a cow. I was like, we're going to get some chickens. Let's get a goat. I was like, I kind of want a horse, but I don't know how to take care of a horse. But I was just like, let's have a farm. And we do a lot of that stuff now. Like when the summer comes around, I'm more of an outdoor gardener. I have my indoor plants, but I do a lot of outdoor gardening. I mostly will stick to growing things like tomatoes, maybe cucumbers, green beans, just because they all grow really easily in a pot. Peppers, and then again, herbs. But then Greg has actually taken it upon himself to learn how to do hydro growing. So down in our basement, he has built this whole hydro grow system, and we've got a couple of different types of lettuces. There's cucumbers growing down there. We've got strawberries. And then I think last year, he's tried to start peppers and it didn't really work out. There's a lot that goes into the hydro system. I think it's way more complicated than just throwing some seeds in the dirt and watering it throughout the summer, but that's his jam. I'm more of a dirt girl. But yeah, growing a lot of our food. We did arugula. I remember we did arugula. We did spinach. I think he might have cilantro growing right now because I was like, please grow some cilantro. But yeah, just like growing stuff. It's so much fun. And for me, it also becomes this like spiritual practice because I feel very witchy and I feel like I'm just sort of connecting to the earth and the cycles of like natural processes. And it's just a very spiritual thing for me. So that's just something that I kind of like learned about last year, kind of getting into understanding seasonal fruits and vegetables, like when do things actually harvest, when is it best to buy those things at the grocery store, and maybe I'll see if I can't find like a PDF or something like that to share with you guys as well if you're interested in understanding like when's the best time to buy a fruit, because like right now I tried to buy some strawberries recently-ish and it is not strawberry season. Those strawberries were disgusting and God knows how they grew them. So All that to say, it's just a matter of learning. It definitely takes a lot up front, but I think if you put that work in, you will be better off for it in the end. And I think at the end of the day, it can contribute, obviously, to that sort of being fully well, that whole circle wellness, just like having a good relationship with food, understanding where it comes from, how it fuels you, how it heals you. And then last point I wanted to make with nutrition was just water. Intake your water. So I let my doctor know that I've been intaking about anywhere from 100 to 140 ounces of water a day, which is sometimes a little more than a gallon. And she was like, nope, keep doing that. She was like, we're going to like wipe those kidneys. We're going to clear everything out. Like, keep drinking the water. And then she said, you know, keep moving your body and just keep taking care of yourself in all the other ways. Just cut out some of that protein. So it's just been a journey. Yeah, just been a journey. Always going to be a journey. And I think that's the point. I think full circle wellness in and of itself is that way. Like, it's up and down. Healing is up and down. It's not linear. So that's just like one of the points I'm always trying to make with any of these topics, is just to keep trying. And honestly, consistency is like the best thing you can give yourself. So there's that. There's my 2 cents. Anyway, I have notes. I brought my notes today, you guys. Oh, meal prepping. Let's touch on meal prepping really quick. I know I kind of talked about that, but meal prepping. It's not difficult. I don't go out of my way to buy extra food for meal prepping. I see what I've got in my kitchen. I decide I'm going to put together, I don't know, chicken, these roasted vegetables, because this is what I have, and then some brown rice. Like, it's just keep it super simple. Like, keep it, what is it? Keep it simple, stupid. Like, just keep it simple and just save yourself that time. Like I said, it's one of those things where I'm like, oh, I think a lot of people want to say, oh, I don't have time for that. But at the end of the day, spending 2 hours on Sunday saves me hours during the week. So it actually is a time saver, not a time like taker, essentially. And you're obviously then cutting all kinds of like calories. You're saving money because you're not eating out. Like, you know, you're eating good, healthy food because you're not buying it from a fast food restaurant. Like, there's so many benefits to meal prepping. So again, I do a meal prep video on Sundays. It's like one of those reels on Instagram. And if you ever want to see that, I just have so much fun doing it. So I do that every week. So you can follow me on Instagram if you want to check that out. So now let's talk about fitness a little bit. So we talked about fueling your body, and we talked about, you know, eating good, putting good in, feeling good. And why do we do that? We do that so that we can move our body, you guys. If you have an able body, you are so blessed, because there are so many people in this world who do not have able bodies. Like, that's a thing. Like, ableism is a thing. And when I broke my leg, I didn't realize how, like, for granted I took being able to just take a walk around my neighborhood. Like, I would always complain about it until that ability was taken away from me. And then it was like, okay, I'm stuck on this couch for 4, 5, 6 months trying to heal shattered bones, going through a lot of pain and learning a lot of lessons at the same time. So I think that is the first mindset shift that I find the most important when it comes to this idea about physical fitness. Because let me tell you something. Story time. We'll talk about who I used to be. I used to be somebody who just would start an exercise regimen. Okay, like I would start running. I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna run and I'm gonna do a marathon. Well, not literally a marathon. I wanted to do a 5K, but like whatever. I was like, okay, I'm gonna start running. And then it's like I'd run and I'd do great one day, and then I'd do great the next day. And then it's like on day 5, I would want to rest, and then I would feel this sense of shame for wanting to rest instead of recognizing that rest is something that my body needs. And it was this very all or nothing mindset. The second time I would get a hiccup or something would go wrong, or like my plans interrupted my workout routine, which we'll talk about, I would just quit. I would just be like, oh, well, it's just too hard. This just doesn't fit into my life. This is just not something that I can do, and I can't do it perfectly, so I'm not going to do it at all. And that is not the way we should be thinking about exercise at all. It is better for you to show up on day 1, 2, 5, 10, 11, 22, like whatever, even if there's all these breaks in between, as long as you keep picking up and going and consistently showing up. That is better than showing up day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and then calling it quits on day 7. because you missed a day, and then it's like you are just all or nothing mindset. I'm either going to do it all or I'm going to do nothing. That is not going to get you anywhere. And I can't tell you how long, actually 32 years it took me all that time to actually sort of ingrain that mindset into my psyche that you know, like healing is never over, physical fitness is never over. You guys, like, get up, show up every day. There was actually I don't know if it was a podcast or a YouTube video or something that I was listening to. This guy was talking about, he was saying, like, you know, I couldn't stick to an exercise routine, so I just told myself, like, all right, we're gonna work out every day. They're just gonna move your body every day. That's what I'm gonna do. And I think he said in a year he only didn't do that like 5 times. And honestly, that's kind of what I did for my 90-day Slay challenge. Back when I started on October 2nd, it was the last 90 days of the year, and I told myself, like, I'm just going to move every day. It doesn't matter what it is. If it's a walk, if it's yoga, if it's a lifting session, if it's cycle bar, I'm just going to move every day. It doesn't matter what it is. And at the end of the time period, I had only missed 1 workout. Because once you get, I'll tell you what, another thing that I just sort of kind of popped into my mind and I just remembered. I used to think it was all about like motivation. Like, I need to get up and do this because I'm motivated. And the thing is, motivation is bullshit. Like, you can be motivated 2% of the time. Nowadays, no, I'm not motivated to work out today, but I know I'm going to work out today because I have built a habit of working out today. My body is now looking for that movement. I have created momentum. That 90-day challenge, if you need to start with something like a challenge, start with like a week challenge or a 2-week challenge or a month. If you can push for 30 days, shoot for 30 days. If you're willing to take on something like 90 days, do it. If you want to take on something like 75 hard, if a challenge is going to be something that sort of motivates you and gets you started, whatever gets you started, whatever can help you build momentum is what's going to keep you going, because momentum is actually how you start to develop the discipline. That's what I just sort of learned in doing this whole 90-day thing. Because prior to that, it was kind of like I'd work out like 3 or 4 times a week, which is actually very healthy. And that's a very good sort of like amount to be moving. I want to say the American Heart Association, the Fitbit, like there's a statistic, and I think it's the American Heart Association. They're the people who came up with the idea of like 10,000 steps a day, or like, I think it's 150 minutes of like cardio work per week to just have like a healthy heart. So just work, if you're going to go bare minimum, getting a walk in every day, getting your steps in, anything counts. When I started trying to do any kind of physical fitness, there was not a chance in hell, especially after breaking a leg and having a surgery and then going through physical therapy, recovering, and then attempting to start working out again, and then tearing my meniscus and then having a second surgery. Like, I had to sort of start from the bottom over and over and over again. And I think what it eventually taught me, particularly working with physical therapists, is that you do start at the bottom. You do. You meet yourself where you're at. If you're at the bottom, start at the bottom. If you're in the middle, meet yourself where you're at. If you're able to run a mile, start there. If you can't run, start walking. If you can't lift 10 pounds, start with 5. Like, wherever you are, meet yourself there. And then when I first started doing any kind of healing work, not even just like physical health healing work or nutritional healing work or anything, just healing work. Like, I just wanted to work on healing my childhood trauma and finding inner peace. My sort of mantra at the time was like small right actions daily. Can I stand in front of the TV and do 10 squats? Sure I can. Can I walk outside for 10 minutes? Sure I can. If I could take a small right action, because all of those tiny, tiny right actions, you might think they feel insignificant because it isn't some TRX, or it's not cycle bar, or it's not like this crazy lifting session, but all of that shit adds up over time, little by little by little, and then eventually you can take on the 45-minute walk, the cycle bar class, the 40-minute lifting session. Like, you can finally do the push-up, you can finally squat a plate. Like, it takes time. Your body has to adapt to all of that stuff, and that was like one of the greatest lessons that came out of actually breaking my leg. It was just this like I think I was trying to push and push and push, which is how I broke it in the first place, trying to pick up a sport that was like entirely new to me, mountain biking, going out, being afraid, pushing anyway, not knowing what the fuck I was doing, and then breaking a limb. And then it was just like the lesson that I learned out of that was start at the bottom, start small, meet yourself where you're at. Consistency is always going to win over intensity. And now I'm at a place where I'm so consistent. Some days it's intense, some days it's not intense, but the consistency is what wins. And every week when I do, because I'm in this app, I'm doing this challenge, I'm doing some stuff with my coach and doing stuff with First Form. When I do my weigh-ins and my measurements and my photographs week after week after week, and then I can like see that progress happen, while maybe the number on the scale doesn't change, but the inches on my arm did. Maybe the number on the scale didn't change, but in the photograph, I see the difference. It's like, there's a lot of ways to measure progress. And I think the biggest thing to learn, and I will always say this, I know I've said it before, is that especially when it comes to diet and exercise, you absolutely cannot succeed if you are trying to shame yourself to a result. Like if you're sitting there saying, oh, I hate my body, I'm fat, I'm this, and I'm gross, and I should be doing, if you're shooting all over yourself and you're coming at it from a place of shame, you are never going to get there. That was me for years at a time. And it comes out of the diet cultures that our society puts on us. Sometimes it comes from parental stuff, because I think that diet culture thing has been around for a long time. And like when I was a kid, we always had fat-free this, sugar-free that, like in the house, lots of those like TV dinners, like Michelinas, lean cuisine. Like it was always this culture of like, you need to be dieting, you need to be smaller, you wear this size pants. Like it was just a thing. And so growing up in that culture, it's like, you have to learn to unbreak that. You have to learn that it's about how your body feels, the fact that you can move at all. That is the win over how your body looks. And obviously there's a line. I know there's a lot of conversations about fat shaming, and I'm not here to fat shame, but there is a health line where if your doctor's saying, yo, you are coming up on, like for me, you're coming up on diabetes, you need to do something about it. Now, my doctor does know that I've been extremely active in losing weight, and she's like, you know, if you just stay on that track, you're going to be fine. Cut more sugar, try to cut more carbs, like do what you can, you're going to be fine. But like, if it's like you're starting from scratch, I don't think those things should discourage you. I think that kind of stuff should honestly like motivate you. Like think, okay, I need to take, you know, radical ownership of my life here and do what needs to be done to build my health up to the best that it can possibly be. Because at the end of the day, that's really what it's about, is just being the best version of you. And the thing is, the best version of you might not be a size 2 or whatever. I'm never going to be a size 2. Like I'm really short and I actually have a small bone structure, but I'm never going to be a 2. Not that I want to be a 2. I'd rather have like a very strong athletic build and be able to like lift a car or something. You know what I mean? So it's just a matter of like feeling good, being strong, knowing that your heart is working, your organs aren't failing, like just taking care of yourself. And I think another key thing that I was talking about last week when we were talking about physical fitness is that the kind of physical fitness that matters the most is the kind that you're gonna do. Like for me, back in the day, I really did like to run, and I was working on running like a half marathon. I had done a couple of 5Ks, I'd done a 10K, and then I broke a toe, and then I was like, okay, I can't do this next 5K because it's in like a week. I can't even put a gym shoe on. I kind of fell out of running. Then I had a thing with my hips, and I was full of all kinds of excuses, as you can hear, and I was just like making the excuses as to why I couldn't do something, because I didn't believe that I was that person. I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna be like a runner, but I didn't really believe it, you know? And the thing is, I did like running. So it's like I would do it, but at the end of the day, was that the image of who I believed myself to be yet? No. And that was a shift that I made as well in terms of mindset. And it started with actually the Fit Girls community, which if you've never heard of is just like an online community doing fitness and nutrition. You can find it on Instagram. It's called Fit Girls Guide. And they have all kinds of like guides, nutrition guides, workout guides, etc., etc. And one of the things they stress is like calling yourself a fit girl, like saying like, I am a fit girl, because then at that point, when you start to make decisions, you make decisions from that place of, okay, if I'm a fit girl, what would a fit girl do? Almost like what would the WWJD, like the what would Jesus do thing. It's like, well, what would a fit girl do? If I tell myself I'm a runner, what would a runner do? I love cycling, like indoor cycling, not mountain biking, guys. We're not getting back on the mountain bike. I love cycle bar. And I think, well, what would a cycle bar instructor do? You know, show up, show out, do the best that they can do. And it's not even just that. I love that place. I love that workout. I love how I feel after that workout. So I know that I'm going to do it. And that is what's important, because I'm going to show up consistently, whether I'm feeling my best or I'm feeling my worst. I know I'm going to have fun. So at the very least, I just show up and get a little ride in. And again, showing up a little is better than showing up not at all. Always. And I think Grow with Jo talks about that too. I want to say I've seen that on her Instagram, where she's like, you know, some days you're going to show up and it's going to be, you know, you're going to be doing your workouts just like this. And then some days you're going to show up and it's going to be like you're doing the damn thing. It's like the intensity doesn't matter. The consistency matters more. And that's the mindset shift that you need to make when it comes to moving your body. Celebrate the fact that you can do something you actually like, because that means you are going to show up and do it. And then having the mindset of process too. I used to be so results obsessed, where I'd lose 10 pounds or 15 pounds and I'd be like, oh my God, I lost 15 pounds, you guys. And then it's like I would go straight back to doing all the things that I was doing before, put the weight back on, because I was so focused on the result. And it's like I wasn't even at the result that I wanted, which was more of a weight loss of like 40 or 50 pounds or something, or whatever it was, or whatever it would be. And it's like, what you have to kind of get into is recognizing that it's not only a process, it's a very long process. It didn't take you 30 days to put on 50 pounds. It took years for that to happen, and it's going to take years for that to come off. Minimum 6 months to see any kind of sort of results, I think. At least that's in my experience. Like, I've been working on, especially my arms. I've always like kind of, again, I talk about shame, but like I've always kind of like hated my arm. I was like, I don't want the, I don't want the wing. I want to like work on my arms, right? But it's like, I had to learn to kind of like love myself where I was at. Again, it's about meeting yourself where you're at and saying, I'm worthy of doing the work. I'm worthy of the love now. And I'm going to love myself through this evolution. So I started the evolution and fell in love with the process. And now, several months later, I'm actually seeing some biceps. I'm seeing some deltoids come in. I'm seeing my shoulders pop. And it's just like, I'm not kind of like where I want to be yet. But it's the fact that I've come to the place where I'm more dedicated to the process and I'm less dedicated to the result. It's like, okay, I love myself as I am, but I'm still gonna, reach for something better. You're allowed to want both. You have to like love yourself where you are and love yourself through an evolution to the next best version of you, because it's not gonna come from a place of shame. So that was just something that I had to learn as well, is just stop coming at it from a place of shame, because like I said, you grow up in the 90s and the early 2000s with all the girls that are like rail thin with bone straight hair on the TV, and you just start shaming yourself for being like the thick curly girl. So you have to learn to love yourself as you are, meet yourself where you are at, and go from there. Because at the end of the day, I think the one thing that matters is that we are striving to be a better version of ourselves, whatever that looks like for you. For me, that looks like a lot of things. I want to, build up my endurance to become a cycling instructor. I want to continue to build this up as a vibrant health and wellness community. I want to write a book. I want to start this as a more official podcast with probably less scraggly hair going on a daily basis. Doing that kind of stuff. I actually wow, brain fart. I still do want to finish a half marathon. Now, whether or not I run that half marathon is to be seen. I'm not cutting it out. I believe that I could. I think it would take a lot of work, just because I do still have a lot of pain from breaking my leg and having 2 knee surgeries. So there is a real limitation there, but finishing it, can I finish it? Yeah, fuck yeah, I can. If I have to walk some of it, I'm gonna walk some of it, but I can finish. So just like striving for more, believing that you can strive for more, and believing that you can get there, and believing that you deserve it, believing that you deserve that work, whether it's your nutrition or your fitness, or like we talked about a little while ago, we talked about joy and leisure, we talked about your mental health, like whatever it is, whatever journey that you're on, it's a process. Lean into the fact that it's a process. The journey is what is meant to be achieved, you guys. The journey is what is meant to be achieved. It's not about the destination. If you just had the destination and you didn't have the journey, it's just kind of like, well, here I am. Okay, what now? The journey is what is meant to be achieved. The journey of life, the journey of growth and development and becoming, again, the best version of yourself that you can become. So I feel like I just went on 5,000 tangents. If I left anything out, or if you guys have any questions or comments, or you just want to start a conversation about nutrition or fitness, hit me in the chat, hit me in the DMs. Let me know what you're thinking. If I left anything out, let me know what you're thinking. Like, pull it out for me. Like, just let me know. And then I will be back next week on Monday with our weekly wellness bulletin. Next week, you guys, we're getting really close to the end of the wheel again. Once I get there, I have a few topics that I'm ready to sort of move with for a couple of weeks, but if there's anything that you guys want to hear about specifically, let me know. I'll toss that into the ring. And then next week we're talking about purpose and work. So once you sort of start to feel very healed and you've been working on your mental health and your nutrition and you're coming from a place of joy and you move your body and you've got the energy and you're sort of like, you've started to fill your cup back up, you get to a place where you're like, okay, I'm ready to fill, the cups of others. I'm ready to give back. I'm ready to pour purpose. I'm ready to live into some purpose. So that's what we're talking about next week. That's exactly what I'm doing here, kind of keeping my cup full and then pouring it into this passion project of mine, this community that I've always wanted to build, and doing this kind of work that I've always wanted to do. So, and again, like I said, I'm human, and just like anybody else, I'm having some medical struggles and some nutrition issues, and I'm making my adjustments and I'm treating it objectively, and I'm just going to keep pressing on in faith over fear, and I'll update you guys, because that's definitely gonna change down the line. We're gonna get some more tests run. They talked about maybe wanting to send me to an endocrinologist to check on, to do a little bit deeper dive on the thyroid, check in on my adrenals, check in on my hormones, do all kinds of stuff like that. So it's a process, you guys. Fall in love with the process. I'm telling you, fall in love with the process. The journey is what is meant to be achieved. I will be back continuing to talk about the journey, continuing to talk about the topics, and that's it. I will see you guys later. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the snow. If you have snow, we got snow. I don't know where you're at, but if you've got snow, enjoy the snow. Or if you don't have snow, enjoy the sunshine, because I'm sure that's nice too. That's it. Yeah. I'm going to leave it right there. I'll see you guys later. Love you. Be well.